This is a quick disclaimer. I hint at some adult themes in this episode. It's not explicit at all, but if that's something that concerns you, I wrote about it on the website. This week, on the Myths and Legends podcast, we're wrapping up the current story of Lancelot. If last week's episode wasn't warning enough, you'll see why you really shouldn't get into cars with evil-looking mythological creatures. Also, reality dating shows have nothing on the Middle Ages. Previously on the podcast, Lancelot was raised by Vivienne, the Lady of the Lake, who lived in Brittany. She was hiding out from Merlin, who tried to seduce her when she was 12 with some magic tricks. Lancelot went to King Arthur's court and had an awkward interchange with Guinevere, fell in love with her, was knighted, and left on adventures. Vivienne ran into Merlin, and they had a bit of a heart-to-heart, with her agreeing to try their relationship again in a year, if Merlin was still interested. When that year passed, Merlin left King Arthur for the last time, to go find love. A year later, in Lancelot's story, Guinevere was kidnapped when Kay bit off a bit more than he could chew. Lancelot and Gawain went after the pair, with them splitting up to take separate routes, after a mysterious young woman pointed them in the right direction. Gawain was going to take the underwater bridge, and Lancelot the sword bridge. After many adventures, Lancelot got about halfway across the sword bridge before he slipped, and that's where we'll pick back up with the story, with him dangling on the edge. Blood streamed down Lancelot's forearm and into his armor. He didn't look down, but he could hear the waves crashing against the rocks. He would die if he dropped. He would probably die if he stayed hanging here, and he would definitely die if he had to face those lions at the other end. Things were not going well for Lancelot. Still, he knew Guinevere was watching him. He knew she was safe. He wasn't going to die here. He started swaying on the sword bridge, with the blade digging into his hand with each sway. Eventually, he was able to hook and, subsequently cut, a foot on the bridge, and then he strained while holding the blade, pulling himself and 50 pounds of armor until he was back on the sword. He didn't try to get up and walk after that. His hands and feet were already cut. He just had to get off this bridge. He went as fast as he could, gripping the sides with his hands and pushing along with his feet until he approached the point. He was feeling lightheaded now from lack of blood, and he rose to his feet as he approached the end. He was feeling really weak at this point, and he had just enough energy to put his hand to his sword and fall forward, right into the path of the lions. Lancelot didn't know what was more surprising as he laid face down in his armor: the silence, or that the lions were not eating his face. He struggled until he was able to look at them and saw just the rear halves of the cats, but the front halves weren't there. Then he knew. He waved his hand around, and as he moved it closer to the beasts, they disappeared. It was the ring that Vivienne had given him. It nullified enchantments and illusions. The beasts were never there to begin with. The last thought Lancelot had before passing out was that he was happy he had been saved from cats just in time to die of blood loss. His hands and his feet were tight, and Lancelot was only half awake. He was in a bed, and down the hall he heard something. "I'm gonna fight him. I'm really gonna fight him," Lancelot heard a man say. "I don't care what you say." "Once again, son," an older voice said, "I'm very much going to go on record saying that this is a terrible idea. You're completely in the wrong kidnapping Queen Guinevere, as well as Arthur's foster brother. Even though I am opposed to all of this, morally and otherwise, and have the power to stop it, I'm just going to complain about it for a while, and then let you fight this young man to the death, just so long as you give him some time to heal, before you kill him in front of everyone." "Fair enough," the younger man said, and they parted. Now, I paraphrase what was not just an interaction between King Bademagu and his son, Maligant, but several pages of them arguing about what to do with Lancelot. Maligant was the knight who kidnapped Guinevere and Kay, and he didn't want Lancelot to leave alive. The king entered Lancelot's room. "Good news! I was able to delay the fight a couple of months, until you heal. If we play our cards right, we can delay it longer, and I can sneak the three of you out of here, no problem." Hi? Lancelot said. Lancelot learned that even though Maligant was the son of King Bademagu, Badamagu thought he was just horrible. He disagreed with the whole kidnapping and imprisonment of women thing, and as soon as Guinevere showed up, King Badamagu put her in her own private wing, where Maligant and the others couldn't get near her. Badamagu didn't know who'd win in a fight between Lancelot and Maligant, but he didn't want this obviously very brave and capable knight to kill his son. Lancelot insisted on killing the man's son, though. But he would take his time to heal. 1 day, exactly. Lancelot just had deep gashes on his hands and feet, and it's not like you need your hands and feet to fight someone to the death.